What is happening, everybody? Josh here from Spawn Fly Fish, and we are back with another tying tutorial. Before we get started, do us a huge favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and we are going to get started. So if you follow our channel regularly, you'll see that we're kind of on this jig kick. So what we're trying to showcase is that you can take many of the elements that you learn in fly tying or jig tying and cross platform. So we're going to take elements that we use in tying shrimp flies, and we are going to bring them to the jig world. So whether you port a jig or you're using a smaller jig like the one we're going to be tying today using a Spawn Super Bead, these are all techniques and materials that you can utilize and showcase to have a lot of success on the water. You can dumb this down to a really small little jig hook and a smaller bead for your fly applications as well. So we are going to get started. We got a Spawn Super Bead in shrimp. We got some lead-free wire there, and then we have the Jig 90 Big River hook here from Gamakatsu that we showcased in a previous video that we've been using a lot here. We like this bend in this hook here. It's a really sticky hook, very strong, but we like this bend because all of our fisheries here are barbless, and this bend kind of works as like an owner no escape hook for those of you that have used that hook in the past. So we're working our thread back just before the bend here, and we are going to get started. Sweet. Alrighty, so the first element that we're going to use, we've been using a lot of this, got turned onto it by a local jig tire here, and it is just money. If you're having some flash in there, this micro little lateral scale is a must. So we don't need a ton of it here, we just want a little bit of flash on this one. Again, this pattern over the last week and a half has just absolutely clobbered the coho. So really excited to showcase this today and use more materials in the jig world. We see a lot of jig tires that get in a rhythm of using rabbit or marabou, and that's kind of where the end of the line comes for their tying. Not to say that those materials don't work great, but it is a lot of fun to just sit down on the vise and get really creative. So we're here to showcase that today and utilize some materials that maybe you haven't utilized in the past. So this is in most of the shrimp patterns that I tie. This is the barred Voodoo fibers in black clear, and we do want some of these. So this is going to work almost as like the feelers, antennae of this shrimp pattern here. We're going to get quite a bit of that, and we want this to stick out a little bit longer than the flash. So again, staying on the bottom, we want this to move freely on the drop. So a lot of the times those coho come in and smash that jig or that fly on the drop, so we want those fibers to flow freely, and that's why we tie them on the bottom there in this portion of the fly or jig, whatever you want to call it. Alrighty, Yahtzee, we're getting close here. So we're going to add one more little element here to the bottom, and that is some legs. Coho love legs. We love legs. I think everybody loves these legs when it comes to tying. So we have some crazy legs, white pearl, fluorescent orange tipped. These things are sweet, and they go along perfectly with this pattern. So we got 4 of them there, or a half of 4. So we took 4 out of the pack, split it down the middle, and we're tying that tag end on. We're going to let those 4 flow freely. Now we can turn that back over, and ooh, do we have a mess going here, and this is looking great. So we're going to trim those just a little bit, but we do want quite a bit of movement here. I don't know if you can see this, might be off camera, but all's good. Just trim those up a little bit. You don't need them to be crazy long, but you do want to see that white on the bottom there. Alrighty, so for tying bigger profile jigs, you'll want to use the mono crab eyes, but for tying a smaller fly like this or jig like this, you can use what are called easy shrimp eyes. We use them a ton, again, across all of our shrimp patterns, But for those jig tires that maybe have not used these before, this is a very nice product, especially when you're tying smaller profile jigs. Now, if you're using this on a 3/0 or a 1/2 ounce jig pour, you're gonna want to use some those mono crab eyes on our website. They have a larger profile, and not only a larger profile, but they have longer tabs, so you can really stick them out because you want to be able to see them. There's no point in tying them on if you can't see them, so want to be sure that that's the case. So we tie those on right there, looking really nice. They're not going to fall apart or anything. They're going to last the life of the fly. Alrighty, so now we have this rear portion of the fly done, and it is looking pretty good. So we are going to take some polar chenille in fluorescent flame, and we are going to tie that on. Nice and secure here, and work our way up to just where those lead-free wire wraps end, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to snip that off so we can wrap this easily. So we want touching wraps, and very much be mindful of that. We want these to stack on each other as tightly as possible. This is not only going to provide the profile for the pattern, but also that really good coloration that we want for the water. So for me, this is more of a clear water fly than an off color fly, but you can still catch them. We caught them earlier in the week when there was more a lot heavier flow, and now in the lower water, clear water fishing applications, these jigs worked very well. So again, really tight touching wraps. You can see I'm just taking my time. There's going to be a little bit of a bump there from that easy shrimp eye, so you can either take some thread and stack it and make it a little bit easier transition there, or just do what I'm going to do and just be very mindful of that next wrap and maybe stack a wrap right on top of it. Yahtzee, good to go. Continuing to work our way forward here. And even though we're tying with some different elements for those jig tires that are following along with this, fly tires, a lot of this will be nothing new to you. It's still very simple. I would argue all the steps that we've done today are just as simple as wrapping on crosscut rabbit with a magnum strip at the end. Just a few more elements. Fun to tie with, extremely productive, a little bit different look. Sweetness. Alrighty, so looking good, looking really good. Alrighty, next element here, we're going to take some ostrich. We want quite a few plumes here. This has some 3D eyes stuck on it. We're going to pull those off. Notorious for the tying desk. A bunch of loose materials get there, and the next thing you know, you got living eyes on your ostrich. Alrighty, here we're going to want this on top. I love ostrich on the tops of these jigs or flies. I think it adds a really cool element. They flow really nicely. They look killer. Alrighty. Booyah. That's looking pretty tasty. If I'm a coho, I'm eating that thing. And we are about done here. Alrighty. Anytime we tie, you know you got to add at least a couple spawn elements. We got the spawn super bead there. Now we got to use some spawns, fluorescent southern peach marabou. There is no substitute for spawn, as we like to say here in the shop. So we're going to take that there, Nice feather here from Hareline. We're going to tie that in, and we're going to wrap. We don't want a ton of marabou here in the front, but when this fly gets wet, it'll shine. That polar chenille underneath will shine through just fine. So we're going to bring this all the way up to, that's not going to work very well. Should be wrapping away, but we're going to bring it this way. That feather wanted to move that direction, so we're going to allow it to. See if we can get one more little wrap there. Really have a clean finish here. Perfect. For those of you not tying on a big jig like this, tie this on, say, like an FW 550 from Arex or 551, size 8, and you will have a killer little fly for sea run cutthroat, among other species here in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm sure abroad. So there we go, looking great here. We got those fibers all going the right way. Now we're going to just be mindful of our finish here. Looks a little dirty on one side, so we're going to clean that up. We do want to use this orange thread here and create a bit of another hot spot here at the collar. And Yahtzee. We are ready to go catch more coho. Probably my favorite salmon species to target on a flat rod. A couple whip finishes here. We'll throw in some loon and we will be good to go. This is some loon thin. There we go, looking good. And we got an infinity light here from Loon. These things are very nice, available on our website. Charge it up, cure fast. There it is, everybody. That is how you bring a shrimp to life on jig style. Whether you're tying a 1/2 ounce or a size 10, this pattern is going to get it done. Hope everybody enjoyed. Be sure to hit like, be sure to hit subscribe, and as always, we will see you guys next time.